I'm Gina Ligon. Thank you for coming back. Ben Franklin was angry on this day in 1730. You see, on April 30th, earlier that year, a fire had started on a ship and it spread throughout the riverfront of Philadelphia. All the factories, the homes, the goods, it consumed all of it. So what had happened? You see, people ran toward the fire. They used whatever they could to help. They were focused, they were trying, but they were individuals. Franklin was angry that the city that he had helped build suffered so much damage so quickly, and on a night that he would have considered favorable firefighting conditions. So what did he do with that anger? He had formed a group. He called them the Junto. There were 12 very different individuals, and he had organized them to solve the difficult problems of the day. It was this group that founded the Union Fire Company, where they had 8 meetings a year to determine shifts and practice for firefighting for future fires they would see. It was this group that prevented and fought the next fires from ever destroying that much again in the city of Philadelphia. I share this story with you today because I believe that January 6th was our fire. Like those in Philadelphia, after the fire of 1730, I've gone through many emotions. The day of, I was incredulous. In the weeks after, I was sad. And eventually, I also got angry. But today, nearly 6 months later, I feel hope and I feel resolve. My hope is that NCITE Consortium is forming our own junto, a group built on the shared goal of becoming the premier academic partner for the United States for terrorism research, education, and innovation. I feel resolved to do everything that I personally can do to build a junto structure to allow you, our researchers, to prevent the next fires, the next January 6th, or what we as extremism researchers know, something that could be far worse. The innovations that came out of Franklin's Junto far exceeded what any of those individuals were able to achieve on their own. In fact, over the door of the Union Fire Company, it's still inscribed from the Junto, "The good we can do together exceeds what we can do individually." The good we can do together exceeds what we can do individually. I'm an organizational psychologist, and I'm also the director of NCITE. We have formed this consortium and all the structures that support it to reflect collaboration, to reflect Ben Franklin's Junto. In my brief time today, I'd like to share some of the ways our Junto has made some progress toward becoming the leading academic partner for counterterrorism research. But I'll also lay out some challenges before us to fight the next fire, to prevent and disrupt the next January 6th. First, let's reflect on collaboration with our students. NCITE at its core is an academic consortium stood up by DHS. One of the values that we hold in our consortium is to inspire the future workforce, both in the classroom and in our research labs. So let me tell you about 2 of the ways we have formed juntos with our students in this first year. First, we design meaningful education projects. We found out we won the Center of Excellence designation for NCITE on February 21st of 2020. In the days that followed, our whole pedagogical lives were turned upside down by COVID-19. We had to learn to Zoom. We had to cancel study abroad trips. We had to wear masks to our lab meetings if we got to hold them at all. 2020 is a shared experience that we all have as educators. We got to see inside our students' small apartments during Zoom meetings. We got to have them see our dog throw up behind us during ours. All of it was messy, but in the end, it's a fundamental change in how we teach and how our students learn. Through it all, the NCITE Consortium has used the funds from your projects to enrich and inspire your students in new and creative ways. At UCF, Adon Vela used the opportunity to expose his engineering and IT students to leading experts and extremism researchers from around the country. Here at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, Aaron Plegancool Miles and Aaron Bass worked directly with the newly formed CP3 office and DHS to unleash MBA students on projects about how to collaborate with industry partners. And today, I'm happy to say that 3 students from our inaugural IT Innovation Fellows program will return home from DC. What's significant about this is that our staff, specifically Monica Boyer, removed barriers to allow them to do this. You see, the way that the university reimburses travel is a lot of times people have to pay out of pocket and then they get reimbursed after. But to pay for the travel to go to an internship in DC is just too exorbitant for students in Nebraska. So what Monica did is she worked really hard to make sure that they got advance funds so that they could have that experience to level the playing field between them and students on the East Coast who have access to those kinds of opportunities. This one's particularly important to me in that the NCITE Center has provided resources to students to let them across the country in each of our universities be able to have those coveted internships inside the Beltway. We also funded 114 students on our projects. We found ways to involve them in every aspect of the work, from doctoral students all the way to high school interns. We're training the future workforce through active engagement with both us and our DHS partners. At Chapman University, undergraduates watched and content coded hours of SARS training videos. They can tell you everything about them if you're interested. At Penn State University, the Leadership and Innovation Lab conducted experiments to induce something called design fixation on study participants planning faux attacks on ideological targets. And an IT innovation student working with Martha Crenshaw at Stanford University and Iris Malone at GW Elliott School came up with a brand new way to visualize the connections among domestic terrorist groups in the United States. These are just some of the ways that we've collaborated with our students through the resources that NCITE's provided us. It's important to me that students are involved in our projects do have a pathway to paid work. This is why we prioritize budgets that have ample pay for students, as well as travel built into them for them to attend conferences and participate in internships. These are the most important, perhaps the most important way we'll get to make a difference through this work. And later today, you'll learn about some exciting ways that you can connect them with each other in year 2. We've also formed juntos across our academic silos. Interdisciplinary collaboration was the key reason we won this center. And this year, we worked with a purpose with people who were unlike us to innovate for Homeland Security. Here at UNO, we posted a never-before cluster hire opportunity to bring in individuals from 5 disciplines to put their training to the difficult problem set of studying terrorism. And we're recruiting 2 more pre- or postdoc researchers to join us right now. Disciplines open. I'm pleased to introduce who these cluster hires are. We have Dr. Erin Carnes. She's joining the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice. We have Dr. Austin Doctor. He's joining the Political Science Department. We have Dr. Sam Hunter. He's joining the Industrial and Organizational Psychology program. Dr. Joel Elson is joining the IT Innovation program. And I'm pleased that we just made our 5th hire. He's a senior leader in the DC area, and he'll join the College of Business later this fall. So you'll have to stay tuned to figure out who he is. It was important to me to have these individuals join leadership roles in our center. You see, terrorism's a complicated problem, and it doesn't belong to any one discipline. NCITE has provided a way, a junto, to bring these diverse individuals together to generate new ideas that no one of our fields could do individually. The good we can do together exceeds what we could do as individuals. I hope you feel it on your own teams. I was pleased to see the new names and disciplines you brought onto your year 2 projects. We need all the help we can get. So far, I shared with you the progress we've made in forming juntos. We did it with our students. We've done it with across disciplines. But as we grow, we also need to think about collaborations outside the halls of academia. There are over 200 terrorism research centers, and NCITE's new and it's pretty unknown. So for the remainder of my time, I'm going to share my vision for how NCITE also can be the basis of juntos with government partners and when talking about ourselves. Let's talk about forming a junto with DHS. The nature of our cooperative agreement gives us access to DHS professionals and their problems in ways that no other granting opportunity you will have affords. It's been difficult with COVID and a new administration. We tried a lot of things in year one. We set up kickoff meetings. We made giant grids of all your projects with potential stakeholders. But there's been a lot of movement in DHS and we haven't been able to travel to meet them. So relationships were stymied almost as soon as they started. Like all startups, some of the things we tried didn't work. But we're trying more in year two, and we need your help. Today starts with these reverse pitch sessions. Please listen. Please engage with DHS. Think of yourself as a partner to them. We're also planning these 6-week sprint check-ins with your project stakeholders, and we're going to hold more DHS speakers in year two. But we need you to come. They're for the public, but they're really geared at our students and our faculty to come and ask questions and develop your domain expertise about the nature of problems that they're facing. Today, you're going to hear directly from our program manager about how to establish performance metrics to show how impactful your work is. That will be part of this junto. So while year two is about forming juntos with our government partners, I also want to talk to you a little bit about the junto between your identity with your home institution and NCITE. So this is where having an organizational psychologist as a director gets psychological. So in my last challenge for year two, I'm asking you to incorporate being an NCITE researcher into your identities. Stick with me for a minute. You were chosen for this consortium because you're experts. Your institutions are incredible, trusted organizations for the U.S. government. You're Victor Asal from SUNY Albany. You're Martha Crenshaw from Stanford University. You're Karen Sporer from Maine. You're Eric Frost from San Diego State University. You're Josh Freilich from John Jay. You're Mario Scalora from University of Nebraska. You're Dev Margolin from the Program on Extremism. There are over 50 of you, and you've all worked so hard to get where you are. But you're also something else. You are part of the only federally designated Center for Terrorism Prevention and Counterterrorism Research, the NCITE Consortium. Through NCITE, you have a trusted relationship with the government to design research projects for their needs. Through NCITE, you beat out researchers from 64 other institutions that tried to win this COE designation. Through NCITE, you have a way to do additional research and build innovative programs across the federal government through our basic ordering agreement, which you'll hear about a bit later. Through NCITE, your work's elevated to the briefing book for Secretary Mayorkas at DHS. Through NCITE, the good we can do together exceeds what any of us can do individually. So what I'm asking is that you begin commingling your identities. Our differentiator across those other 200 terrorism centers is you. It's the diversity of our network, but we need you to help us communicate it. NCITE's a place where disparate fields come together to work with the government to innovate in ways that's never been seen. We need you to help spread the word. You're going to hear from Erin Grace later today, and I ask that you begin thinking of yourselves with NCITE as part of your identity. You can hold both your home institution and an NCITE researcher at the same time. For example, when Pete Simi gave congressional testimony earlier this year, he introduced himself as an NCITE researcher, Pete Simi, who's also a professor at Chapman University. When Martha Crenshaw updated her webpage bio, she added NCITE researcher and emeritus faculty at Stanford. So my hope is that you will begin to feel part of this consortium today and proud to make it part of your professional identity. We are new, but we don't have to continue to be unknown. In the beginning of my talk, I told you I'd share how we've made progress toward forming our own juntos at NCITE. I don't need to remind you about the importance of what we study and what we do. You can reflect on the remarks that Assistant Secretary Cohen described earlier about the threat and our role in combating it. We have to be innovative. And I think we've designed a structure that will allow us to do this through NCITE. I think about the innovations that came out of Ben Franklin's junto. Not only the fire department, but also the public library, the post office. I reflect back on the fire that burned down that city in 1730 and all the unorganized individuals who were desperately trying to save their homes. And then you compare that to the Union Fire Company that met 8 times a year. It had 30 members from the mayor down, all of them sharing this identity of being part of something bigger than their individual roles. I'm eager to see what innovations come out of the NCITE Junto over the coming years. The good we can do together exceeds what any of us can do individually.